Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Call the May meeting of the Commission on Aging well to order. First, we'd like to welcome our new commission member, Charles Brown. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Charles. Let me just start with I'm a native of Mississippi. Came here for college in 1970. Graduated and started teaching right away at Madison College. Madison Area Technical College, and went back to the university, got a master's degree, but I taught there for 46 years. And I like to, I look at myself as having been a lifelong civil rights activist and community servant. And I started my civil rights work at the age of 9, at a very exciting time in the state of Mississippi. Got married in 1986. That slowed me down quite a bit. And we moved to Fitchburg in 1992, and I'm still there. So I want to thank Janice for calling and asking if I was interested or could find the time. And I thought, how can I find the time as busy as I am? So she called again. She called. Janice, let me just think about it. She called again. I thought, okay. But thank you, Janice. I do want to give it a try. And she said, oh, there's not much to it. You just move on. That's what they all say, right? But thank you, Janice. So it's my first opportunity to give something back to the city of Fitchburg. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for making the commitment.
Yes. Thanks. We would like a motion to amend the agenda so that Joe can go first. He has other commitments. So do we have a motion to change the agenda to move the outreach to first item on the agenda?
Motion to change.
And second, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Joe, we'd like to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. I'd like to echo Charles's, praise of Janice. She, I think, has done some tremendous work since she's joined the Commission on Aging well, and has really brought in a lot of ideas and people into this space. So Jill asked me to attend today and talk a little bit about my district. I understand each aldermanic district is going to do this. So what I'd like to do is share my screen since we're on Zoom. I should be able to, and share a tool that some of you may know about, but for some of you this may be new, which is our GIS system. So Fitchburg has a mechanism by which you can look at maps and find different information about kind of how our city is laid out. If you'll look below, there's a lot of different features to it, but the feature that I'm gonna focus on today is a map that actually breaks down aldermanic districts and shows the demographics of the cities that we're in. A little bit about me before I start. I am originally from Milwaukee, born and raised, and I came to Madison in 2001 to attend college. I've been in the Fitchburg area for about 15 years, and I've lived in my neighborhood, I think about 13. I live in the Belmar neighborhood, which I'll hone in on when we get into the map, but it's actually one of the, probably the most racially and ethnically diverse aldermanic districts in Dane County, definitely in Fitchburg, but I love where I live. I live about 4 blocks from the convergence of 5 bike trails. I live near Dunn's Marsh. We've got, families from all over the world. And we also have a pretty big socioeconomic diversity, as the neighborhood specifically that I live in is next to a lot of homes that were built by Habitat for Humanity, so it's allowed opportunities for many families to own a home for the first time. There's apartments, we're right across the street from the city of Madison. We share a border with Madison as well, so there's just a variety of people from a variety of walks of life, and I think the beauty of diversity is that we have human beings with different perspectives that can enrich one another's lives. They bring a lot of experience to the table. I think a challenge with that is people have to understand one another's lived experiences, and when you have to do that, I think it builds empathy and it allows you to be a better human being, and as a policymaker, it allows us to make better decisions. So I'm gonna click on this map. Let's see if it switches over. All right, there we go. So here is Fitchburg. So if you look at our districts, for anybody that doesn't understand why they're so differently shaped, the districts are laid out by population. So areas that are more densely populated are going to be smaller as districts because we want to be able to have the kind of same number of representation for our elected officials to represent roughly the same number of people. District 1 is in the northwest corner of Fitchburg. So if you look here, the borders on the south, you have McKee Road. On the north and the west, you have the city of Madison. And I won't even begin to go into why this looks the way it does. I will say that oftentimes policy decisions are made, sometimes they're made without thought. Sometimes they're made for specific reasons. I'll give you one specific reason.
Joe, is your cursor on Raymond? Is that Raymond Road?
That is Raymond Road.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give you one story that a former county supervisor told me, which is when the city of Fitchburg, or when the township of Fitchburg expanded prior to its becoming a city, to absorb different areas as Madison was also expanding. I believe there were some firefighters that lived here and they wanted to live in one particular municipality. So they got the choice of being able to decide where the city ends, which is why if you're walking down Raymond Road, it'll be Fitchburg, 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 Madison, Fitchburg, 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 Madison. So that's kind of one, I guess, a little less consequential reality. But I will say this, the city of Fitchburg shares a border with Madison. Does anybody know, without looking, what this area is? Okay, so this is Ally Drive.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna botch the history, so I'm not gonna try to speak precisely, but essentially, Ally Drive at one point was student housing for graduate students, I believe. And in the late 80s to 90s, there was an increase in crime, and there was a heavy law enforcement presence in the area. And one of the things that as Fitchburg was expanding and as Madison was expanding, there was an intentional decision to make Ally Drive a part of Madison. So and I'll actually tell you where I live. I live right here where this arrow is. So if you literally go through a little ditch, you're in Madison. And then if you walk about 5 or 6 blocks over, you're back in Fitchburg. And I'll say one of the things that it makes this complicated is that most of my district lies in the Verona School District. But anything in Madison obviously lies in the Madison School District, with a few exceptions. I think this area right here is part of the Verona School District, even though it's in Madison. But, you know, when it comes to calls for service for police, when it comes to who attends what schools, you have, you know, folks that are often living in the same neighborhood that, you know, go to different high schools, go to different middle schools, elementary schools, might be eligible for different services if, you know, it's a service that the city of Madison provides and the city of Fitchburg is unable to. So I just wanted to point out some of those realities because I think they're relevant, and they oftentimes people don't even know what city they live in, right? Because people choose to live somewhere and they don't think like, oh, I want to live in this particular municipality. They say, here's a place that I can live. And they have, you know, there's different things that affect their lives that are different depending on kind of what side of this imaginary line that you live on. So I live in the Belmar neighborhood, as I mentioned, but also when you look at the district, we also have, you know, we have apartments, we have houses, we have small homes. If you cross Seminole Highway, you have, you know, very large homes. You know, I would classify it as kind of more traditional suburban. And then even if you go down to like the Pine Ridge neighborhood, which I believe is over here, you have kind of smaller, newer homes as well. If you go into the Jamestown neighborhood, you have kind of older homes from the 1970s. And then you have apartments all along Anton Drive, you know, close to Verona Road as well. So I mean, there's a big racial, ethnic, demographic, you know, socioeconomic diversity. You have many folks that have disabilities in the Belmar neighborhood. There are several housing units that are specifically catered to people that have physical disabilities. And, you know, as I mentioned before, you also have a lot of access to nature. You have a lot of natural beauty as well.
Do you go into Harlan Hills?
Yes, so Harlan Hills would be right here. Yeah. Yep, and this is where the district stops. So even here is a little bit confusing because, you know, depending on where you're going, you don't know if you're in District 1 or District 2. So
What is that road? Is that
yeah, let me zoom in. I know it, but I don't remember at this moment. Rothmore.
Okay.
So Rothmore, Kilkenny,
Okay.
and Ashbourne. Yeah. So let me see if I can actually find the feature that shows demographics, and if somebody sees it before me, please help me. Layers, I believe. Let's see.
Maybe I remember finding it too, Joe. So.
Yeah.
And then click on that.
Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
All right. See, and there are your alders if you live in District 1, Dave Herbst and myself. So by population, about 32% or a third of residents in District 1 are Hispanic, Latino, Latinx. I know there's a variety of terms that folks use. About 13.64% of our residents are Black or African American. About 6.9%, or about 7% of our residents are Asian American, Asian, and a quarter of a percentage are Native or American Indian. So, you know, I would say again, this is one of the most demographically diverse districts. It is the most diverse district in Fitchburg, but it's definitely one of the most diverse districts in Dane County. And I think, you know, what does that mean for, you know, folks that are looking to provide services? I think when it comes to the senior center, for instance, right, there's an intentional effort on behalf, and I've seen it over the years, of the senior center to really, you know, serve our older adults and meet their specific needs. I think going beyond race, we're also looking at disability. We're looking at transportation insecurity, and it's really important that we think about what specifically our residents need as they access services, whether that be getting to the senior center, right? And I know, you know, one of the items on the referendum was to expand paratransit service. I don't think that specifically that expansion would have, you know, lied within the borders of this district, but when you think about other parts of Fitchburg, there are parts where transportation is inaccessible. And it's harder for folks with disabilities to be able to catch a bus. You know, obviously there are transportation services that, you know, are offered, you know, within, but, you know, public transportation as a whole is really important to be able to allow folks to more easily access places. The other thing that I want to say about services is that one thing I really take pride in, specifically in the Belmar and the Allied Duns Marsh neighborhoods, is that there has been some pretty historical, long-standing community organizing across both municipalities. So there is an Allied neighborhood resource team that the city of Madison hosts. That's an opportunity where monthly service providers come together and talk about the needs specifically in the neighborhood, whether it's in Madison and Fitchburg, and work together to go across different, you know, areas of service to break down what people call silos, right? So I might do housing resources, I might do violence prevention, I might do youth work, I might do so-and-so, and if we're all in a room and we're talking together about, you know, the best way to coordinate around a family that may need multiple of those services, you know, we're not duplicating services. I think one of the things I've also seen living in the area is that there are kind of long-standing people who have given their time and their effort without, you know, asking for anything to be able to organize in that neighborhood. Some of those folks have transitioned, you know, such as Selena Pettigrew, and you know, you have folks that are still with us, such as Miss Alice. You have Carmela. You have a lot of folks in the neighborhood that really give back, and there are, you know, some spaces where people gather, such as the Boys and Girls Club. If you go into the Jamestown neighborhood, you have Redeemer City Church, you have the Latino Chamber of Commerce, and you know, you have the Catholic Multicultural Center. You know, spaces where people, you know, are able to gather, but also people are able to access certain services they need. So I wanted to, you know, kind of spell all this out because there's a lot of richness in our neighborhood. There are a lot of structural needs. And when I think as somebody who, you know, signs off on policy decisions or creates policy recommendations, I like to not only look at the numbers, but also the stories that people are telling me. One thing in particular that we were able to do in my first year on term on council is we had a polling place that sat outside of our district. So it was right here where the fire station was. So anybody that had to vote that lived in this entire district, which was a little bit shorter at the time, it stopped at Seminole, they had to vote here. So if you live over here, you know, it's a couple miles to walk over here. So if you don't have a car, you know, you're limited. You could take a taxi, you could do other things, but it makes it difficult, and those things influence voter turnout. we were able to find a partnership with a nonprofit that's not in the area anymore, but they agreed to host as a polling site. It moved right here. And eventually they weren't able to, so it moved a couple doors down, and now it's at the Catholic Multicultural Center. So now, you know, folks who live in apartments, folks who live in the neighborhood who have cars, they can walk if they want to, right? So I think when we're looking at the decisions that we make as a body, you know, equity, and I know it seems to be a dirty word often today, but equity is something that we really have to consider, that different people have different needs, and in order to make good decisions that work for everybody, we have to make decisions that work for folks that are the closest to the issue that we're talking about. So I'll stop there because I have to leave in about 10 minutes, but I want to stop and entertain any questions that folks have. And of course, I'm glad to come back, and I'm of course glad to engage folks via email as well, or have a conversation, or come join you at the Senior Center for coffee.
So how engaged are a lot of those residents? Do a lot of residents reach out to you? Are you in there, you know, soliciting or trying to get information from them?
Yeah, I think one of the best mechanisms for engaging feedback, apart from just kind of going door to door, which is you know, you can't do that all the time, right? If you know, I've got kids and a family and a full-time job, but I do, you know, I have definitely walked throughout this entire district, is some of our neighborhood associations. So we have an Allied Duns Marsh Neighborhood Association.
And it's still active?
It's active.
Okay.
They have meals every month at the Boys and Girls Club. I believe it's the third Friday, but I may be wrong. But they actually have, you know, gatherings every single month. And they do have a listserv that they email opportunities about. So that's a place where you can directly hear from folks. I will say, like, my fellow alder, Dave, is very active as well. He, you know, does bike giveaways to folks in the district. And I've done, you know, some bike giveaways as well. I have a listserv. I haven't used my listserv in a while, I'll be honest with you, just because, you know, life transitions can be a little challenging. But, you know, I am definitely open to receiving feedback. But oftentimes the feedback that we get is from folks who are kind of tuned in and know what's going on already. So I think it takes extra intentional outreach to reach residents. And, you know, that's something, you know, I'll admit I need to get better at, and we as a body need to get better at as well. But, yeah.
So, you know, each district has 2 alders. Do you work together to pull residents together in different events or what have you? And I'm asking that because you're right, you have the most diverse district, right?
Absolutely.
And you have the most affluent as well as the most marginalized people in your district. Yeah. Do you guys do anything to pull those people together, try to work together, events together, or do you operate this separately?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, and I'll just speak candidly because he would agree. You know, Dave and I, when it comes to policy decisions, often we're like vastly different. We vote differently on a lot of things. But one of the things is, like, if Dave's having something, I tend to show up. If I'm having something, Dave tends to show up. And I think what we both share in common is we're both community oriented, and we do like to be places, and we do like to serve. And we are, we're working out the dates, but I believe this August we're gonna have a district listening session. So the mayor actually set that up. She's doing that in every district, so I will make sure to advertise that when it comes out. But yeah, like if the neighborhood association has events, you know, for the most part, both of us are there. You know, if there is something going on in the community, you know, provided we're available, we'll be there.
And yeah. Dave lives over, and just so you all know, Dave apologized he couldn't come for due to a work conflict, but he lives over in the King James Way area.
Yeah.
Right?
So Dave lives around here, and I live around here. So we're both in, you know, different parts of the district, which I think is it's valuable, because, you know, and again, Dave's in my neighborhood all the time, so you know, I think he makes a good effort to be active.
Joe, as we promote the services of the senior center, when you're looking at your district, what's the main thing we should be concentrating on?
I would say finding, like, connecting through organizations, and this is one thing that that I want to promote our Healthy Neighborhoods committee. So we have a Healthy Neighborhoods initiative. It's a strategic plan in which we target 4 historically marginalized areas. 2 of them are in this district, Jamestown and Belmar. And we award small grants to organizations that do the work in the area. So I think, you know, one thing is many of those organizations that operate in neighborhoods are organizations that have specific relationships with people. So Dane County Joining Forces for Families has a social worker in both neighborhoods, right? Those are good people to connect with. There's an Allied Wellness Center. There's, again, the Allied Dunsmarsh Neighborhood Association. There's the Allied Neighborhood Resource Team. There's Redeemer City Church, the Latino Chamber of Commerce, right? Like, and there's also apartment managers. If you go to any of these apartment offices and you give them flyers and you give them an email that you want them to send out to their listserv to their residents, it'll get out. And we actually have had luck doing different like initiatives. I think when we were first doing a survey for the police chief to be hired, one of the PFC members and myself actually went to every apartment complex in District 1, and we asked that they do it, and the engagement went up. You know, so I think these are very intentional ways to get the word out without necessarily spreading ourselves too thin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any demographics or information you have that relates just to older adults? Do you have any idea in those areas?
That's a good question, and I'm wondering if maybe that's something Dakota could possibly like
Right.
suss out in the
Yeah, I
numbers.
wasn't sure if that
Okay.
broke down any further, but I said
Yeah.
after this meeting, I would go back to Dakota and
Yeah.
ask what we didn't get.
Yeah, because this is based on census data, so it shouldn't be hard to figure out on the census data, at least at that moment in time, how, you know, how old people are and have breakdown by age.
Joe, I have a quick question.
Yes.
In District 1, what might be 1 or 2 challenges that residents are still talking to you about or concerned about?
Transportation, I know that's something I've heard often, and I think, you know, within Fitchburg, we probably have some of the most access to bus lines because it's a densely populated area, but even then, there's still, you know, people public transportation, right? It's difficult to get from kind of one place to another. It's hard to get from District 1 to here on a bus. It would take a long time. Versus if you're on Fish Hatchery Road and just, you know, take it straight down, or you're coming from Southdale, it'll loop around. But the bus getting to this civic campus is a little bit challenging. That's not an easy fix, right? Because bus service is really expensive, and even for the, you know, few changes that we've wanted to do, you know, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, I would say food insecurity. Although there are, you know, pantries, you know, people still have needs. And I would say access to youth services.
And what about supermarkets?
So I will say that there's 2 specific, so there is a grocery store that's opening on Williamsburg Way. That area has been very vacant for a really long time. So I think La Hispana is opening there soon. I've seen it under construction for a little while. And you know, within Belmar, there's Luna's Groceries. So you know, there are places in both neighborhoods now that people can walk to get access to food. So I think that's an improvement over the past.
Yeah, because that food insecurity, that's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about even from older adults, they can't walk to grocery stores.
Absolutely.
I mean, so there's a lot that goes into that.
Absolutely. Friends, I wish I could stay, and I'm glad to answer more questions. I have to actually hop on a work meeting right now, but thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Very, very helpful, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, did everyone get a chance to read the minutes of the April meeting? And if so, do we have a motion to approve? Are there any additions or changes, corrections?
I would move to approve as submitted.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The minutes are approved. There are no public appearances for non-agenda items. So we'll go to Jerry, report from the Friends.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Last month, the Fitchburg Senior Center Friends put on a travel show over at the center, coordinating with Mayflower, and it was well attended. There were about 30 people there or so, and let's hope that's 30 plus travelers. We had the pancake breakfast on April 27th and drew more than 600 participants, of whom I think 45 were probably children. And let's see, just some round numbers in terms of what we served. 100 dozen eggs, 100 pounds of sausage, 25 gallons of orange juice, and an estimate of about greater than 1,500 pancakes.
That's a lot of flipping.
It is, yeah. We've also decided that we will be hosting our annual bratwurst lunch in August on Friday the 22nd. So keep your dates open for that. The brat lunch, it's a very casual affair, and last year we actually ran out of brat. So this year we will be having more. There will be plenty there for everybody, even vegan brats. Okay, we have, let's see, in April we contributed more than $580 for various incidentals for the senior center, and we have committed $350 for new plantings for around the center. And let's see, our website has been updated. It's currently up and running with new content on it now. I think we might even have something from the pancake breakfast there. So if you attended, you might be able to see yourself. And that's it.
Right, and I just want to publicly thank the Friends. They worked really, really hard, and it was just a really successful day. So thank you for your efforts and all the volunteers that I know Barb was back there mixing batter for hours. She was full of dust and pancake, and you were covered.
So do you have it out
Some of
under
it
your
got
fingernails?
some of it got into pancakes.
Yeah, but it was a
Well,
great event, so
they
thank
work
you.
for days ahead to prepare
Yeah.
as well. So it would be interesting to know the number of volunteers who it took.
It was amazing. I mean, you could never have enough people to run something like that.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I'm thinking, wait, there's an awful lot of volunteers here, but
Right.
they were all pretty busy.
Yeah,
Nobody
8
was
o'clock.
standing- Nobody was standing around.
No. Yeah. It was a
And
good
it's a
day.
great way to.
Did he leave his phone?
No.
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
It's a great way to encourage Friends membership as well.
Yes.
It's a good group.
What's it called? As friend building as much as fun.
Fundraising, yeah.
as
Yeah.
much as
Fundraising.
fundraising.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. Jill, report from the director.
Okay, so I want to kind of expand, and I was really excited to have Joe here today. And I want to talk about this outreach plan, and I want to tell you I'm already ready to pivot. And this is why. I've had a lot of time to think about our target audience. I've been watching the center for the last couple weeks, who's coming through the doors. I think most of you know that have been on the commission for a while, or I've talked about partnering with the Madison New Bridge Cultural Diversity Program. I was very engaged when they started the Healthy Neighborhood Initiatives. My focus has always been to diversify the senior center. And when I was looking at the numbers the last couple weeks, just this week, Monday we had 270, Tuesday we had almost 320, yesterday we had 225, 99.9% were white. And I just started thinking, it's not sitting well with me, this outreach effort. I want to narrow our focus. I want to dive deeper, and I want to outreach to people of color. And I think hearing Joe talk about the diversity in his neighborhood, I've been working on this for so long and haven't been super successful. We've made strides, but I feel like I don't want to lean on New Bridge Madison to reach our people. I want for this commission to reach our people. And so I'd like to add this statement, or just a small few words after our statement, that we serve people of color. Like we're reaching out to the community of older adults, specifically people of color. We have an ambassador program that just is aligning with this mission. So the ambassador program is using volunteers to be present at community events right now. And right now we have 6. We had 2 at the Library Resource Fair. We have 3 going down at the Farmers Market starting next week, each week. But when I look at the Farmers Market and the demographics, you know, that's a different demographics. But we're doing that community outreach, which was kind of part of that. We're hitting certain areas, we're at the Munchmobiles, and there's other community events that our ambassadors are already signed up for. So we're hitting the community at that level. But I feel like I really want to focus on people of color. It's time. I have diversity on my commission, which I've never had, which is great. People that have different experiences than myself that can bring more information to the table. But I want to narrow our scope to not all residents because, well, we will still do all residents through that ambassador program. But with this group and a commitment that I can get from this group, I think I would like us to just narrow to people of older adults of color. And you can see District 1 is whatever percent, 30% Hispanic, Asian. You know, I can't do everything for everybody, but we can narrow that focus, I think. And I think it will help us be more successful when we really can measure what we're doing. And after a year or 2 years, when we drive this plan so hard and we reach every piece of this city, we'll know we did our best. But I haven't been able to do it alone. And so now I'm looking towards this commission. And, you know, I feel like there's a commitment here. We're doing an outreach plan, but I'm asking for your support on that people of color. And also, too, these working meetings are so valuable. There's things we can't get done here at a commission meeting. I like to use the commission meetings to do what we do, have our standing reports, have our check-ins, our level of accountability, where's everybody at. But those working meetings, that's where we're really gonna lay out that plan, identify our strategies, assign people, you know, work, and then at the meetings, that's when we start to hold everybody accountable. So I feel like the working meetings have been great. It's brought me to this point. After that last working meeting, I think I even said I was feeling a little overwhelmed or anxious, and we need to narrow the focus because that is what I've been trying to do. And now with this commission, I think we're ready. We're ready to do it in-house. And so I'm asking you guys for your support and your commitment to work hard. I'd like to add a standing meeting every month where we can really dive deep into what we need to do. And then our commission meeting is a little bit just more check-ins, information sharing, and move forward that way. So you open to comments.
You want to get away from the last working meeting we had. We wanted to get alder Pearsons from all of the districts to come to this commission. You still do?
Oh, absolutely. Because there is people of color in every district.
Right.
Joe's, you know, perhaps is the most, Joe and Dave's. And so, you know, when I'm listening to him, I'm like, yep, this is what we need to do. So yeah, we are still in the information gathering. And also too, I'm thinking, I was very engaged in that Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. There's a lot of information within the studies that they did years ago that we could also pull in. But I think that working with the alders, you know, it was very interesting to hear Joe's experience. And I've reached out to Dave because he wasn't able to come, and asked him if he can pick a day and time that he could meet with me, and I would invite all of you and listen to what his experience is in his district and what needs he has. So that's how I want to move forward.
So are you asking us perhaps to amend that purpose statement, not today, but at the working meeting?
Yep.
What does the statement say? I'm sorry.
I know.
It says to create
Oh, thank you.
awareness of Fitchburg Senior Center programs and services throughout the Fitchburg community. And we could add a statement, I mean, we wouldn't have to do it
Specifically
today.
older adults of color.
Phase 1, beginning with people of color or older adults of color. And not limit the purpose statement, but add a level of, you know, first level or first priority, something along those lines.
Yep.
Jen?
Reminding us of the ambassador program is helpful.
Right.
And there's some of those big pieces that will happen separate from.
Well, and you know, I want to say, you know, we developed the multicultural group, I don't know, it's almost been 2 years. And again, it aligns with what I've been trying to do. And that the ambassador program has been moving along. And, you know, I had a committee working on things that really, it needs to be at this committee, you know. And so I've talked to the multicultural group to move away from what we were doing, because I'm going to shift it here. This is the group that needs to be engaged in how we go out in the community and share our programs and services with people of color. And that's kind of what that inclusion toolkit was. But I want to focus, I want it here. And so the multicultural group now is just an ambassador program, and that's what we'll be meeting about with that group. And for example, like I said, you know, they'll be at the maybe concerts at McKee and the Farmers Market and the Munchmobiles and a lot of other areas that they can be there, community events to share information. But this group, we really need to hone in on those strategies that will reach people of color, and Joe gave us some ideas. So go ahead, Janice.
Yeah. A couple of things. It won't change the foundation which we've started working on.
No.
It'll just change our purpose statement that says community of older adults with focus on older adults of color. So that's still unchanged, but this will end up being a 2-tier department plan, because again, we've got our focus that will be on older adults of color, and then the ambassadors is the community as a whole. So it expands actually the department goal and the work that's being done for your plan. At the same time, if we really think about it, older adults are our business, right? And so when she talked about the number of people that come in and out of the center, there's a gap. Reality is there is a gap. And so we are missing older adults of color, and it behooves us to put some emphasis on that and work hard to see if we can raise awareness and draw individuals to come here so that they know about us and want to participate. So I think it just really gives us, from my perspective, a broader chance to really open up to the community. We're still touching all of the residents in all the districts. We're just doing it in a two-tier kind of approach. We're focusing on older adults of color, and the ambassadors are focusing on everybody at all the different events that's happening across the city. So I applaud you for taking time.
Well, Janice had lunch and learn yesterday, so we met after, because I was unsettled. I was like, I don't know if this is what I was really wanting, but this is what I really want. Go ahead, Charles.
So with the trying to attract more persons of color, up to this point, what has been the barriers? Transportation, lack of awareness?
You know, and I think that's what we need to find out. And again, I was leaning on Newbridge Madison's cultural diversity program to try to, you know, partner with them to bring people in. I think transportation is always an issue, but maybe there's just not a level of comfortableness. Maybe, you know, we can do some focus groups, because I'm not sure.
I would respond to that and say all of the above, and still some unknown. And it could be comfortability, it could be feeling a part of, not having programs or events that attract them. We don't know. So, you know, we talked about focus groups. We've got to find that out. So we've got to go through a process of discovery.
And then just quickly, what is the role of ambassadors that you guys have mentioned?
So the ambassadors are really just an extension of the center that can be present in the community at certain events, because way back when it was just staff. We might go to this event, but by having ambassadors, and there's a training program they go through to educate them about the programs and services, it expands our outreach. We can be more places, more times, and then you don't have this staff issue that, okay, I sent somebody, you know, a community night out, so they get to take the day off because I got to flex schedules. But also too, when it's peer-to-peer, it's very different than a younger staff person talking about the senior center. I think that oftentimes word of mouth from people that use the center really help. And I was curious, you know, I know Janice reached out to you, but did you know about us? Did you know a senior center existed or what we did?
I knew it existed.
Yeah, and that's about it.
It's had limited knowledge.
Yeah. So, you know, just that's it. I mean, you're a long-term resident. How do we make sure people, the center, but that's not enough. What do they do? What's there for me, you know?
Jill, I think one thing that would be helpful throughout this discussion is to have maybe like an org chart or at least a definition of what are the ambassadors and their role,
Sure.
and the outreach effort to lay out.
Right.
Because I don't think we're that well aware of what the ambassadors are, what they do, and so on. And so even just a little description of responsibilities or...
We have job descriptions for our volunteer,
but just a brief outline so that when we get into planning, then we have an idea of how we can utilize that group more effectively too.
Yeah.
And Jill, I don't want to take too much time.
Oh no, I'm happy to have this. This is a good discussion.
And I said at the council meeting, the last council meeting, that I will listen and learn, but I do want to ask a few questions. Have we looked into churches? Now, I'm a member of Mount Zion Baptist Church, and it's celebrating its 114th anniversary soon. And then I have a good friend who pastors Second Baptist Church. So the role of churches, Jill, might be something.
Yep, the city has interfaith meetings, I would say once a quarter or every other month that I've been attending that bring in, but they are Fitchburg churches. There might be some churches outside of Fitchburg. Within the multicultural group, we tried that, but yeah, that's a strategy that we have definitely on our list.
Just so you know, Charles, we've been having a couple of working meetings, and we went through setting our goal or purpose statement, as well as our targeted audiences, and then strategies. And we did a brainstorming session, and we came up with all the different kind of strategies in which we could do outreach. And church definitely was one of the ones that's on. We'll have a whole list, and maybe we'll get you some information about it so you can see. I mean, we had a plethora of thoughts and ideas on how we can do outreach and where we could outreach to. But that also is something that a lot of that stuff that's on that list, ambassadors are doing, and or they can, you know, take on some of the suggestions that this group actually came up with, you know, for us. So, yeah, I mean, I think, personally, I think for us to start figuring out where the people, older adults, people of color are within those districts, and then, yes, perhaps start off with some focus groups to find out what they know about us and what, you know, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I think in our working group, we can, you know, discuss it, but we've got to do some discovery to figure out the what.
Right.
You know, what as what Charles said, he's been here, a resident for many, many years here. I have too. I didn't know anything about the center until I, at Ill, came over here and I was looking for an exercise class. That's how I got involved here. been.
And you're close.
Yeah, 27
She's
years
close,
old.
right?
Close by.
Right, and oftentimes, yeah, you don't come till you think you need it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is fine, but we want people to know we're here when you are ready, or you might have come earlier to do exercise had you known about it, you know, so, yeah.
It may be so, but when I came, and then I figured, look this
Who
other
knew?
stuff.
Who
Then I
knew?
got pulled in to be a volunteer, or something.
One thing led to another.
And then here I am. Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah,
Jill,
go
from a tactical standpoint,
Yeah.
commission members, is it your vision that we would actually be going out and meeting with these groups in addition to what the ambassadors are doing?
The focus groups, yeah, more, when we hone it down that way, the ambassadors are just casual outreach.
Okay.
You know, but going into the neighborhoods, meeting with, you know, doing focus groups, and we still might do events and stuff like that, but I think we just really, that's what that working meeting is gonna be about. How do we drill down really, and really get specific about reaching out to people of color? And I'm not sure what that looks like today until we define those strategies, but in the past, it's been myself and staff, and now it's time. We've got a commission that's great, and we can do the work right here at this level. Yeah.
I don't know that we need a motion to do anything.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't
No,
think
no.
so.
What I'm hearing is general support of narrowing
That
our focus and pivoting, yeah, kind of a partial pivot. I don't
Right.
think that we're
Yeah.
pivoting away
No,
from,
right.
but just further refining the focus of the initial, like maybe not phase one, but our initial efforts.
I also hear that you're asking for commitment.
Well, that second meeting,
Yeah.
because I
Or-
don't think
or
we
ongoing,
can, you
yeah.
know, keep hashing out strategies all the time. And so to get everybody committed, right, for at least a year until we really get until we really have a solid foundation of where we're going. That I send out one poll to say, when can we all meet? You know, maybe it's another morning on Thursdays. Those afternoons seem to be pretty successful. So I'll gauge that, but then to have that commitment from all the members to be there and engaged in these working meetings. So we can, because you can tell, it's hard to get stuff done at this meeting.
And not the purpose of it.
And it's not the
This is not
purpose
the
of this
purpose of it.
meeting, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's the commitment. It's another meeting once a month, that I'd like everybody to come to, engaged and ready to just, you know, drill
Yeah.
down.
Just a narrowing of the focus, because it's very broad as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
almost
Good for
impossible to be successful.
Yeah.
You have to start with a smaller.
Right, and this is, you know, hopefully we've got to find some ways to measure our success. We got a lot of work to do
We
with that.
definitely have some work to do, but we first for us to finish that foundation
Yeah.
and hone on that, and then it goes
Yeah.
from there. But at the same time, we have to also, you know, keep in mind this two-tier. We are still touching all the residents
Yes.
in Fitchburg, but this group is focusing on older adults, particular people of color, at this point right now.
Yep.
So.
And Jill, just one last question, I promise. I was reading about transportation. How does
Yeah.
that work?
It
You know, to
doesn't.
the polls, to the pantries, to the,
Well, let me share what we have
Yeah.
through the senior center. So we have, it's actually not our county contract, but the county contracts and pays a provider. And some of this funding comes from Older Americans Act because it's tied to the nutrition program. Our transportation is primarily for nutrition. So they give us X number of hours to get people to lunch and then to go home after. They also, within that contract, because it's tied to nutrition, we take folks shopping, grocery shopping and general shopping, twice a week. And that is determined by the county, and once a week to the food pantry. So each week they can go to the food pantry, they can go either like Target, Walmart, like a general store, and then they can go to a pick and save. So that's a county contract that I don't have really much control about. And
And is
it's
that point to
really,
point?
I'm
from their-
sorry?
Is that point to point from their home to?
yep, always from their home. It's a $1 donation, so very affordable. If you can't afford to pay, you don't
that's
have
something
to.
this commission is not involved in it
No,
in
it's just-
any way?
Yep,
Okay.
no. What we try to do, so beyond that, you know, and that's like at 10:30 to 12:30. So people have to go home at 12:30 unless we get a special exemption for them to stay a little longer for a bingo or lunch and learn. But that doesn't happen. I
To
mean,
create awareness of the program, promote it among,
the transportation.
yeah. Or do
Well,
we
that'll
do
be,
nothing?
yeah, I mean, it's in our newsletter, we don't do enough promotion, and that only would get them to lunch and a few extra things, but that would be part of our outreach. But we don't have transportation all day. So if somebody wants to come to knit or paint or do another class before 10:30 or after 12:30, there is no transportation, none, zero.
Okay, so with that little piece of information,
Mhm.
if I put that in my church bulletin,
Yeah.
for example,
If they're Fitchburg residents and they want to come for lunch or a lunch and learn or something that happens with that 10:30 to 12:30, they can come over on the bus. Yeah.
okay.
And then the second form of
I won't ask.
transportation, oh no, the second form of transportation is RSVP, medical rides. So we have about probably 15 volunteers that take people to doctor's appointments. And it's a wonderful service. It's under the Retired Senior Volunteer Program because they will do mileage reimbursement and they also will give you a secondary sort of supplemental insurance just in case something happens. So people are screened, they go through there, but then there are volunteers. Susie at the front desk schedules all the rides, or handles scheduling the rides. And so medical appointments is that primary transportation, which is wonderful again, because a lot of folks aren't on a bus route and can't get to a doctor.
I had no idea.
Joe, just so you also know.
There's so much that
That's
I
why we're having
right.
messages.
Yeah.
The bulletins, we have used Mount Zion's bulletins for some of our events in the
Yeah,
past.
some big events, yeah.
And we will continue in some of the other churches, so that is a
Then
good.
we have a van
outreach.
ministry at Mount Zion.
Hmm?
A van ministry.
A van?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Pick up singers for church, but
Oh, yeah,
also
yeah, the
they
van.
go other places.
Oh, so you could bring people.
And so I'm aware of that.
And actually Dina is actually doing older adults at Mount Zion.
That's right.
Right.
And so, yeah, she and I have been talking about some, possibilities sometimes, for lunch and learn or whatever, because they do have their van, which is good, plus, as well as Newbridge has a van.
Right.
And could bring older adults. So there's a lot of opportunities in
There's
this,
opportunities, yeah.
possibilities out there. We just need to hone in on what is it that we want.
And make people aware.
Yes,
Make them aware,
yes,
right.
Yeah.
Aware. I had no idea, just my first meeting today.
See?
How much is happening, and I've been here since 1992.
But a
I'm
lot of
getting
it
older
is,
now.
it's there, but people just brush over it. They
don't need
they
it.
don't hone in on it. They
They don't.
say, I didn't read that, even though it's out there, because they're not looking for it.
That's right.
And so that is what outreach is about, is to get people alert to these opportunities and finding, and so when they see it, that means me. Because I think, how many times have we said, oh, I didn't know about that, it was published in many, many places, but people just overlook that, and the outreach part is to create that awareness so that people know to look, and when they see it, they recognize that that's a message intended for them.
And one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
On many, many different levels.
I
So.
mean, yeah, a communication plan of some sorts will be part of this, because again, not everybody's social media, not everybody gets the newsletter, not everybody, reads the Star. Like, there's so many different ways that we need to communicate. And so, yeah, there's a lot to learn.
A lot. I mean, if you think about Joe's, his district, the demographics that he talked about. So we got to be able to reach people where they are, and in a lot of different ways. Yeah. So.
Okay, anything else, Jill?
Any other comments? Oh,
No, so you're just going to send out.
I'm going to send out a poll today that says, okay, we're going to add a second meeting, and maybe it's just a Monday AM, Monday PM, but to really make a commitment.
But it'll be a consistent every.
It'll be
whatever.
consistent, so I'm not putting it out every
Okay.
month. And
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
okay, awesome.
Any other?
No, just a few things. I thank them for the pancake breakfast. May is Older Americans Month, so we always do a little celebration. For older Americans, Flip the Switch on Aging is they always have a tagline, which I think is great, because that really means trying to. Yeah, did you see the
I
tagline?
saw your email you sent me. I was like, what is that?
Oh, on the bottom, yeah.
Okay.
Flip the script on aging is about ageism and the words we use and the things we say to describe older adults and trying to move away. Because, Janice said the other day, I'm having a senior moment. And I said, Janice, don't say that. Don't say that. But we don't know. I say that stuff, or you look so good for your age. So it ties in with trying to break down the stereotype of what senior centers are. And, that name change we can do or not, but I like every year they have a tagline. So next Wednesday we always have a celebration. Our singing group sings, and we send out special invites to people 90 and over. And this year we sent out 87 invites. And so last year we had about 35 older adults 90 and over being celebrated. The mayor comes down and recognizes them, and then we give them a little gift. So it's a fun day. Recently we started a veterans resource group for anybody that wore the uniform. We have a gentleman from the Vet Center that's been starting to come to try to engage some veterans. My focus is on younger veterans too. A lot of things that they're gonna need support with. Janice had I think the biggest lunch and learn we had yesterday, if you wanna talk about that.
I had an audiologist in yesterday to talk about hearing. It was really informative, very, very good, yeah. Lots of questions.
Except for the lady that showed up without her hearing aid.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't hear.
One lady, she came and said, Jennifer, this one too, I forgot my hearing aid.
There's some irony there.
Yeah.
But no, it was really, really good. A lot of good information. A lot of people were saying, I'm gonna call her for an appointment, afterwards.
Yeah.
So it was a great session.
Yeah, it was good. Always, I'll make sure you get one of these. Full of stuff. We kicked off our bike group yesterday morning with about 12 bikers. It was a perfect day and just a beautiful day for biking. And the Fitchburg Bike and Ped Committee lead that up and have volunteers lead the rides. And they can be from 6 to 8 miles all the way up to 10 to 12. So we had 12 people sign up. I will say 4 of those people were 79 plus, and they wanted to go more than 8 miles. So again, flip the script on aging.
There's a women's biking group also
good.
that bikes every Monday morning.
Nice.
From the active women's group.
So lots of activity. Last, I just want to point out, because this is more community-wide, but the city assessor approached me about doing a Q&A about taxes. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yep. And so he will be talking about the assessments and what's coming down for this year for your taxes. So we've got him coming twice. We got him coming 2 times, May 12th at 11 at the center, and then again at 5:30. And we're trying to get this out to the community too, so everybody can come and ask him questions, and he can give updates about the reevaluations that are coming this year. So I applaud him for him trying to be getting the word out. Right. I know, I was like, are you sure?
He's not like a congressman that's avoiding all the public
Nope,
meetings.
he's showing up and he's not afraid. So, and that is open to anybody. So tell your neighbors, and I think that's all I have.
Okay. Any other announcements? We do have an opportunity to have election of officers. We need a president and a vice president.
Chair and vice
chair. Are there any nominations?
Yeah, I nominate Paul. I don't know if I can nominate.
Willing to serve.
Sure, I would.
Okay, we have a nomination for Paul. Are there any others?
I would second that nomination.
And move to close the.
No discussion. Are we unanimous in that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Welcome aboard.
All right.
Pass the baton. And vice chair, are there any nominations for vice chair?
Donna.
Would you be willing to continue to serve? That's fine. We'll nominate Donna.
I second it, and we close the nomination.
Just one concern, I think you and I both are gone during some winter months at the same time. And we can dial in, but it's not the same as being physically here.
Yeah,
And
that's
I will
true.
I will be again
going?
This won't be forever, but next winter I will be gone
I'm gone
for some
6
months.
weeks, but I think I've.
You
I
zoomed
think-
in every
I think
time.
I've zoomed in every time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Barb, are you going to be vice chair?
No.
I like the
You don't want
clarity.
to stay in
Thank
vice
you.
chair, okay.
Well, we could work it out between you
We
two.
could.
You stay home this winter.
Yeah, right. Jeez, Donna.
My son would not have
Where's
that.
your commitment?
Right. Well, we can work out the technology. Yeah, I can do that.
Is there any further discussion? Do we have a vote? Do we have a second, first of all?
Oh, a second for.
Okay. All
Wait,
in
who
favor?
nominated you, Barb?
I
Who
did.
made it? Okay. Of course you did. Okay.
All in
Alright.
favor? It's unanimous. Okay, we are unanimous in that, except for maybe Donna, but. Thank you, Donna. Are there any other announcements? Our next meeting is June 12th. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.